purities are required in order for any human being to live a long, healthy life. If you learn these 7 purities and you can put systems and habits in place that make sure you get an adequate amount of these purities, you will live a long, healthy life. If you can do that in your lifestyle, the style in which you're living produces more life. If you don't, you'll be living a death style, and the style in which you're living will create more death, earlier death, rapidly. And those 7 purities are the following. Pure movement. The body has to have pure movement. It's not a good idea. It's not something you do because you just want to look sexy. It's something your body must have. As soon as it stops getting pure movement, you will interfere with the natural process of the body healing and repair. You must have enough pure movement. And if you have not scheduled how to get pure movement in your life, then it will be taken away from you. Both the movement and the life. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you use it, it gets stronger. It's like a muscle. So, a lot of people like to call that exercise. I'm not talking about exercise. People are oftentimes afraid of exercise. They think they have to be really disciplined to do exercise. I'm not talking about going to a gym. I'm talking about, though you can get pure movement by doing these things. I'm talking about the art of making sure the body has full range of motion and gets adequate movement. Even the spine recharges the brain by movement. The brain is like a battery in the car. It has to be recharged. What is attached to the engine of your car that recharges the battery? The alternator. The movement of the alternator, the belt is attached to the alternator that spins, producing current. When the water goes down the Akasombo turbines, it moves the turbine in order to produce power. Your body runs itself by power. It uses power. It has to have power. The power starts in the brain and goes through the rest of the spine, through all the organs. And the spine movements is the movement required for recharging the brain, Papa. And if you're not getting pure movement because you're sitting too much, or your spine is out of alignment, or you're not getting enough movement, aka exercise, then your brain will not be properly recharged, and you will be living a death style as opposed to a lifestyle. And unfortunately, you will go back to dust faster than you were supposed to. The human body was designed to live 120 years. Scientists, researchers, doctors, they all agree the human body has the genetic potential for a healthy 120 years. That's what you were given as your birthright. When you were born in the image and likeness of your God and your Creator, at conception, when a sperm cell from your father found an egg cell from your mother, and conception took place, you were given the rights to 120 years. Unless you interfere with that right. You see, nature needs no help, just no interference. So it's the interference in this body, in nature, in this temple of yours, that causes it to go back to its Creator too fast. So you have to live a healthy lifestyle in order to honor and earn the right to use this temple to its maximum and longer and fuller. So the first of those purities was pure what? Movement. The second one is pure nutrients. Your body genetically needs these things. As a human being, you genetically need certain stuff. There's only 2 real causes for preventable illness. Only 2. It's toxicity or deficiency. Something your body needs sufficiently, it's not getting it, so it's deficient. Deficiency is one of the 2 only causes of preventable disease. The other is toxicity. Something your body needs, or something you're doing to your body, is toxifying its ability to genetically express longevity and well-being. Only 2 things, toxicity and deficiency. So the opposite is how you live longer. The opposite of toxicity is purity. The opposite of deficiency is sufficiency. So what do you need sufficiently in your life in order to genetically live a full life? What do you need to avoid that would normally toxify the body and create early death? Instead of toxicities, we need to replace with purities. And I created these 7 purities. And the first one was pure movement. The second one is
purity and
nutrients. Good. The second one is, the first one is pure movement. The second one is pure nutrients. Pure nutrients means what are you ingesting into your mouth? Is it toxic or is it pure? Genetically, is it good for you or not?
So you need to understand your genetics to understand what works with it.
You don't need to understand genetics.
Okay.
You just need to ask the right questions.
Okay.
I don't want to make, it's not complicated. If you say genetics, people say, oh, okay, I need a doctor to do that. You don't need a doctor to do this. God did not hide his wisdom and his laws in a burning bush. You don't need to find the fountain of youth. It's in you. You just need to ask the right questions to become aware of it. Ignorance is the soil in which diseases, early death, poverty, and imprisonment is found.
So how do you ask the right questions?
Just ask, knock, and seek. Journal. You need a reflection. You need a way of tracking the questions and the answers. You don't need anybody to come and tell you the answer. The person will be led to you. You will attract to you the answers to the questions if you have the courage to ask them and the present time consciousness to be aware of the answers. Reduce the distractions so that when the answers come, you can be aware of them. That's called seeking, knocking, and asking. Without it, you remain unknowledgeable. And for lack of knowledge, our people perish. A lack of knowledge is called ignorance. Ignorance is the soil in which diseases, poverty, imprisonment is from. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. If that's true with the God of police, it must be true with the laws of this universe. So if you don't know the laws, does not mean you'll be exempt from the consequences of the law. Einstein said something I find quite magnificent. He said that contradictions lead to destruction. And the degree of the contradictions determine the degree of the destruction. Contradictions lead to destruction. And the degree of the destruction is proportionate to the degree of the contradictions.
So, pure mobility.
Oh yeah.
Pure nutrition.
We kind of about those. Pure water.
Pure water.
The power that made your body, that heals your body, communicates through electromagnetic frequencies. And it has to communicate through water. So there's literally electricity passing through your body. It's just similar to electricity, man. When you're alive, you have this messages, this electromagnetic frequency from your brain passing through your nervous system through water. Most of your nervous system is made of water because these messages from your brain, they go faster through water. Electricity passes through water fast, right? So that's why God designed your body. It has this fluid, this water, and your body is made of 80% water. Your planet is made of 80% water. You need water in order to live. Many diseases people develop is from the ignorance that their body is dehydrated. Maintaining and keeping the body hydrated is key. You may be drinking water, but it's also filled with sugar and a whole bunch of other stuff that cancels out the ability for the water to be utilized. So if you ever get thirsty, you're too late. So you have to hydrate enough. It's one of the purities. A lack of hydration equals toxicity. A deficiency in hydration equals toxicity, which is the only thing that creates disease. Toxicity and deficiency. Only things that can create preventable diseases. So hydration is one of those 7 purities. The next one after hydration is pure air. The best way to determine the importance of something is to evaluate how long you can go without it. The shorter amount of time you can go without something determines how important it is. So if you take food, how long can you go without food? Well, Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights or something like that? I fasted for as many as 27 days. So I know for sure. I did that because Gandhi said, I remember Gandhi used to fast, and he finished this extremely long fast, and they asked him, Gandhi, what was the spiritual purpose of your fast? He said, the purpose of my fast was not spiritual. So they said, why did you fast for so long? He just, you know what he said? He said, I wanted to be free from the fear of hunger. I think that's profound.
Very profound.
They thought he was fasting for some cause at that time. But this particular fast he was doing was to become free of the fear of hunger. After his long fast, he said, I'll never be afraid of starving death again. So I no longer had to act and behave because I was wondering what I was going to eat the next day. Because in truth, he didn't need to eat for weeks. So now you can move and be pliable and moldable and free again to be used by the Creator because you're not limited by the fear of hunger. Because this is a universe of abundance. And he knew he would always get a banana or an apple somewhere, but even if he didn't, it could go quite a long time. So back to what I was trying to get you to understand. You can always determine the importance of something by how long you can go without it. So you can go months, or I'd say at least weeks without food. Water, you can only go maybe a week. 5, 6, 7 days. Yeah. Air, oxygen, hold your breath right now. Listen, viewers, hold your breath right now and see how long you can hold your breath.
The longest talking about is 5 minutes.
5 minutes max before you now die out of a lack of oxygen going to your brain. So you can evaluate the importance of something by how long you can live without it. Keep that in mind. So pure movement. You can go some time without pure movements before you start getting bed sores and you start getting infections and your body deteriorates and you die. You can go less longer with nutrients. And then water, you can go about 5 days. Pure air, which is the what? 4th or 5th one. You can go minutes. Pure sleep is one of the 7 purities. Sleep is a constant. When I start coaching people, the first thing we do is get sleep patterns in order. Before we even start goal setting and mission statements and life purpose statements and all the work I do with my clients, we go into sleep because sleep is the constant. It's the thing you do every day, every night. And when you're trying to master time, you first must master the constant of sleep. So I teach a class and I do a seminar on sleep science, where I teach people the art of maximizing and optimizing sleep. It's really not sleep you need. What you need is energy and repair. And you get energy and repair through this thing we call REM. Capital R dot, capital E dot, capital M dot stands for rapid eye movement. Now there's a science to maximizing REM. If you're ignorant to the laws of REM, then you'll pay the consequences. If you're knowledgeable and aware to the laws of REM, then you will get optimal REM. If you know what destroys REM, then you will avoid those toxic things that will destroy your REM. If you're aware of them, then you can apply all of the healthy habits that maximizes your REM. So you have pure movement, pure nutrients, pure sleep, pure air, pure sleep. Let's do it.
Pure movement,
Nutrients.
pure nutrients, pure water, pure air, and pure sleep.
It's 5.
5.
So the 6th one is pure thoughts. What you think about and think about, you bring about. As a man thinketh, so shall he be. All of these, I see people and patients who can think themselves sick. Illusions can manifest the very thing you don't want.
It's funny you should say that because I actually remember when we were kids, I had pneumonia when I was a baby, and I remember one of the doctors that I saw once, my mom used to be a doctor. The doctor said, well, it looks like you have asthma. My sister had the same problem. And my mom just kept saying, no, you don't. Stop saying you do. Stop thinking you do. As far as I can remember, I remember having an asthma problem. And my sister, as I can remember, doesn't have to allow me to heal it anymore. And that's because she got it out of our minds. You don't have asthma. Stop thinking you do. It's amazing.
Well, again, asking, seeking, and knocking is purely the process of thinking. The reason why the quality of your life is proportional to the quality of your questions is because questions lead thought. Questions lead thought. And thoughts become things. And what you think about, you bring about. And your eyes are in front of your head because what you see, you tend to move towards. So what you're thinking about is usually in the front of your mind and what's in your sight, and that's what you move towards. So when my patients first come to my office, my first goal is to get them to stop thinking about the things they don't want and start thinking about the things they want. Because for as long as you're thinking about getting rid of the things you don't want, here's what happens. Most people spend their time trying to get rid of something that they have that they don't want. And I have to transform that for them and help them start thinking about the things that they don't have, that they do want. Because where you're focusing on and what you're thinking about, you're bringing about. I like to add what you think about and what you are thankful about, you bring about. Because there's a powerful part of gratitude that allows your mind to manifest and create exponentially as opposed to incrementally. So, the thoughts in how you, even thinking about hydrating the body requires thought. Even thinking about sleep requires thought.
You know, it's funny how different perspectives and different sayings all connect together because it's one universal truth. So it's funny how you say things you think about and things you're thankful for. And it's been bandied around. I've heard it so many different times. Appreciate what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Appreciate what you have. Appreciate what somebody else doesn't have to say that. Appreciate. All about this appreciation, being happy that we breathe air, being happy you're alive. And it's amazing that you put it from this perspective about how that actually transforms into positive energy and moves you towards that positivity. It's interesting to hear it from this perspective. Think about, be thankful for. It's amazing.
Well, let me help expand on it a little bit for you then. The creating can only happen in the now, in the moment, in the present time consciousness, by the fear of the future and the disappointments and regrets about the past. They're unable to be present, which is where creating happens. And the gratitude is a process of helping you stay in the now. When you're not in the now, the mind will ramble. It will be all over the place. You will not be able to focus. You'll be tired at the end of your day. You'll take 10 hours to do something that's supposed to take only 2. Because you're not focused. You're not present. You are rambling. You're distracted. You can't receive directions. Even the answers to the questions you are asked can't be answered because your mind is not present to receive the answer. You're all over the place. So the way you I try to teach my clients that the reason why we even do goal setting and life purpose statements and mission statements is so that you can plant the seeds of your desires for your future so that you can detach from them and be comfortable living in the present. If you can do that, you can be moldable. Because the moment you're in the future or in the past, anxiety about the future or worry about the past, you're that clay that's now hardened. You cannot be changed because you're stuck in what you think and how you think it should be. So you can't be plied and moldable to even bring about the very thing you want because you've decided that what you want can only show up in the form in which you have placed it in. So you do that work up front. You do the critical thinking and asking and seeking and knocking and goal setting and mission statements and life purpose statements and all that planning, all that stuff you do up front in your journal. So that throughout, like right now, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm not thinking about my kids because I have scheduled the appropriate time with my kids. I'm not thinking about my work because I have allocated this time for now. So while this camera's rolling and I'm communicating with you, I'm here present and I'm being used to share a message. Information can come across, it can flow off the tongue because I'm fully present. I'm not rushing, I'm not checking my phone, I'm not checking my watch because I can be present. And worry and overwhelm for your listeners, the young people who are watching who will be stuck in misery and anxieties and worry and disappointments and regrets and fears and doubts. It all comes because you have not trained your brain to be able to focus and be present in the now. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to, first of all, get all of that thinking stuff out of the way. Schedule the time to do the thinking work so that when you're functioning through the day, you're focused on what is most important in front of you in that moment. And there's a science, there's a system for doing that. People just have to learn it. If they do, they receive the benefits. They don't. So this all comes back to pure thoughts. Because if your thinking is stinking, call it stinking thinking, then you will manifest more stinking stuff. You will create more circumstance. It goes back to E plus R equals O. If your response to circumstances and events is stinking, then you will create a stinking outcome. But if circumstances and situations and people and challenges come to you and you respond appropriately in the now, in the moment, in the zone, your response will be very much balanced. You'll pass the test. The outcome will smell good, it will look good, it will feel good, it will be good. And you'll get a habit of responding with pure thoughts to circumstances and events. And the seventh of the purities is pure power. Pure power. You can determine how important something is by how long you can go without it. Nerve power. Power in your body. The difference between life and death and anything in between is the degree of power flowing through your nervous system. When a person is alive, the moment that they're truly dead is not when the heart stops beating. It's when there's no evidence of electrical magnetic frequencies flowing through the nervous system.
That's why they test the pulse.
No, they test the pulse to see if there's blood flowing through.
Okay.
Your heart can stop and they can do CPR and bring you back to life.
Okay.
They can remove your heart, hook you to a machine, and you will still be alive. The heart's job is just to pump blood through the system. It's important, it's vital, you need it. But it's the nerve power that tells the heart what to do, when to do it and how to do it.
Now that nerve power can be measured.
It can be to a degree. To a degree. We have a testing unit we even use here in our office. It's called electromagnetic. It's called EMG. It stands for electromagnetic graph. So muscle graph. Sorry.
So let me get this straight. Unless you're using an EMG machine,
Surface electromagnetic. Yes.
technically, you can assume to a certain extent that the person is dead, but you can't be 100% sure.
Exactly. So when you go to clinically, they have clinical tests they can do to see if there's any brain power, any nerve power, any electromagnetic frequencies flowing through the body. So people have been buried alive before because they've been able to stop and slow down their heartbeat and blood pressure to such a degree that you think they're dead. People are trained to be able to slow down their body physiology to such a slow degree that you assume they're dead. And in actual fact, they're not. You can take a heart out of a human being and put it into a machine and make it still be alive. You can even put another human heart into that human body, connect the wiring, the electrical wires and the vessels and things, and you can live. Dick Cheney has a new heart. But do you know they can even put an animal's heart, a different animal's heart, into a human body, and you can continue living? For those of you who thought that the heart was the source of life, it is completely inaccurate. The source of life is electrical magnetic frequencies, brain waves, starting in the brain towards the brain stem. Even the brain, this part of the brain controls balance, reflexes, coordination. Is when you go deeper into the middle of the brain and then down towards the brain stem, do you get the part of the brain that controls like life, organ function.
So this is the reason why they keep saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, when somebody guys says, well, it's up to him now. He needs to decide he wants to live. He needs to have the will to live.
I think that has something to do with it. I don't know a lot about that.
Okay.
I know from a doctor's point of view about the power that flows from the brain to the nervous system. You know, I'm just reminded, the yogis believe that the brain stem, which is at the base of the skull, the base of the brain is called the brain stem. And that's the part of the brain that controls life, organ function. And it goes through a hole of the skull called the medulla oblongata. And the yogis call that the mouth of God, because they believe that's where life begins. So even in the yoga, they have a chakra system of energy flow, and they believe that's where it begins. Well, that brain stem actually comes down into the first two bones of the neck. So if the first two bones of the neck get misaligned, it puts pressure on the brain stem, which blocks the flow of life. So as it going full circle, back to chiropractic. My job as a doctor of chiropractic is to analyze and assess the brain stem, the vertebra surrounding it, because the brain stem then becomes the spinal cord and the bones around it, to see how it is aligned to make sure that there's no interference in nature. Because nature doesn't need any help, just no interference. You don't teach a chicken how to lay an egg, it knows how. You don't teach a dog how to mate and reproduce. You don't teach kittens how to have kittens. You don't teach the kittens how to breastfeed from the child. You don't go into a safari and teach an elephant how to have a baby and tell it to push, breathe, push, breathe. Nature, you don't tell plants how to stretch up to the sky and open when the sun is out and close when the sun goes down. You don't tell the plant to rotate. God doesn't call you even to ask you if you want your heart to beat. Nature doesn't need any help, just no interference. We interfere with nature out of ignorance, causing the very thing we're afraid of. So you think about how magnificent this universe is. You've got one planet called Earth with its moon, and then all these other planets, like what, 8, 9 of them, in our solar system, and then one sun called the solar system. And all of this is moving, and nobody calls and asks you if you care. And then that's just one solar system that builds up into our galaxy. And we're in a galaxy called the Milky Way, which is filled with billions of stars and suns and planets and moons. And that Milky Way is just one galaxy inside the universe. This place is... Nature doesn't need your help to make sure this universe stays functional. You can't even control your own heartbeat. Much less... So I'm telling you this because your viewers need to understand they have a creator, they have a power within them that's allowing their heart to beat, allowing their fingernails to grow, their toenails to grow, allowing oxygen to exchange with carbon dioxide, allowing this power to go into the brain, down the brain stem, through the spinal cord, out to the nerves, giving life and intelligence to every cell and tissue of the body. This intelligence doesn't need any help, just no interference. So then we got to ask questions. What have you done to interfere with it? What are you still doing in your deaf style of living to interfere with it? What might you do in the future to interfere with it? What are you doing to interfere with the laws? How are you contradicting and breaking the laws? Are you ignorant of the laws? How do you become aware of them so that you can work congruently with them and stop breaking them? How may what you do create a habit for your children and children's children and children's children's children that will curse them with ignorance for generations? Because they watched what daddy did, they ate what daddy ate, they thought like daddy thought, they processed life like daddy processed life, they dealt with stress like daddy dealt with stress, they believed what daddy believed. They were prisoners of the beliefs of their forefather, of their father, when the father didn't take the time to ask critical questions. How many times must we start over? We're in Ghana where we're developing, in this developing country, and we'll continue to develop because we start over every time. Children are starting over. The wisdom of the father never got passed on to the next generation because the father was trying to be egotistical and wants his ego stroked more than he wants his offspring to grow. So he dies at the early age of 60 because that's the average life expectancy of Ghanaians. And we bury that wisdom so that the children have to start all over. The government will change government hands and they'll start all over. There's no succession plan. There's no planning anyway. Planning is thinking. And if you can't plan and think, you cannot be free to be present in the moment.
Your thoughts.
You can't have pure thoughts because you didn't plan first. Plan, schedule, think first about the next 300, 400, 500 years. That's why the developing countries, when they're thinking about 20 years from now, how to get their resources and how to stay, and how much oil they have for their great grandchildren to still be able to survive and thrive. How to still be the powerful country 500 years from now. We're thinking about today, what we're going to eat right now. We're distracted because we haven't done the work up front. How can you close the gap between the superpowers and the developing countries? When they're thinking and planning for 400 years from now, and we're thinking about what we're going to chop today. So we sell our future away, sell our soul away.
Our children's future as well.
Yeah, because we can only focus on right now. And the people who are thinking 400 years from now are laughing at us. Because they give us some small peanuts, and we say, oh, thank you, son. Thank you, master. I'm loyal to you for life because of that peanut, thank you. Because all you can think about is that peanut you ate today. And you can't think ahead of time because you haven't taken the time to ask, seek, and knock.
Quick question. Let me bring you back to school. How long did it take you to complete your chiropractic education?
It's an average of 8 years. 4 years of undergraduate and then 4 years of graduate. So you either get a degree of undergraduate degree or you get the credit equivalent, and then you can be accepted to the doctorate program of a chiropractic school, and then that's 4 years.
So do you have to have an undergrad in medicine or
In the sciences.
in the science?
If not, you'll have to take some extra courses before they'll accept you into the grad school.
So about 8 years.
About 8 years average. You can do it in 7.5, 7 if you're really sharp, but on average 8 years. I want to build a mecca. I want to build a mega university of universities here in Ghana, or in Africa if Ghana's not ready for it. And in this university of universities will be a university for chiropractic as well. And people will be able to get a degree in chiropractic in less time.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I'd love to help any way I can.
You got $4 or $5 billion.
I'm sure we can find it somewhere. Okay, so Dr. Marcus, any last words of wisdom you'd like to give to youth out there? And I shouldn't say just to youth, anybody who's listening, on how to live well and how to stay empowered.
Well, I believe that you should always only do what inspires you, or find inspiration in what you're doing. One of the two. I believe that's core. Because at the end of the day, you need the energy to push through, to ask the questions, to endure, to be willing, to be used, to be moldable, to be pliable, to be coachable. It takes energy, it takes confidence. And when you're inspired in spirit, you can tap into a source that can constantly fuel you full of more of what you need to endure.
So only do what inspires you.
Or find inspiration in what you're doing.
Or find inspiration in what you do. Okay.
Only. So if you're not inspired by what you're doing, you need to find why and how you could be inspired in what you're doing. Or you need to do what inspires you. And turn that into your vocation.
Okay.
Your vacation and your vocation should be the same. You should feel like you're on vacation when you're practicing your vocation. Look at me right now. Look at what I'm doing. Do I look tired? Do I look like I'm running out of energy?
I'm stressed.
I'm
tired.
feeling, because I'm in spirit. I'm in the moment. I'm present. I'm tapped into what inspires me. Inspiring others inspire me. I have a life purpose statement. So another closing remark is make sure you have written out, memorized, and lived by your life purpose statement. If you need help with that, you can contact me. We have seminars where we help people develop their own life purpose statement. Listen to my life purpose statement. This is a statement that represents what my life is about, is to be about. It is to inspire globally by living fully, loving deeply, and leading passionately. Very simple. To inspire globally, which is what I'm doing right now. Your video camera here is a function of, it is an extension of my life purpose, which is why I accepted the invitation to do this interview. Because it's congruent. I didn't have to think about it twice. You didn't even hear any resistance from me doing this. Because the moment you brought it up, I was assessing, does it fit within my highest values? Does it fit within my life purpose? Does it fall within what I need to spend my time doing? Would I be inspired doing it, or would it drain me? If I spent this time with Papa on the show, would I be tired when I'm finishing, or would I have more energy when I'm done? So I was easy to say, yes, sure, when do you want to do it? To inspire globally by living fully. That came out of my near-death experience. See, you almost got to die before you choose to live. I have seen death. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like to, in your spirit, be dying. So the void of life, the voids dictate the value. So because I had a void of life, I now value it. So to inspire globally by living fully is the opposite of dying. So I'm committed to living fully. So I'm looking for anything I can do that would express that I'm fully alive. We met up Kazumba dancing, because dancing is that next phase of my life that I utilize as a vehicle to express my living. And I'm stuck at it, but I will stay
No, you're not done.
until I master. For the viewers out there, Kazumba champion. It's the man.
I don't know about that.
So to live fully to inspire globally by living fully, loving deeply. I believe love is what connects us all inside of that spirit, in spirit. I have a definition for love that I'd like to share with your audience that they can ponder and contemplate on. It is the coexistence of complementary opposites. You can only be present and experience love fully when you can embrace and receive and be grateful for its opposites. The coexistence of complementary opposites. Matter of fact, in order for you to live a long time with someone else and to coexist and to cohabitate with other people, you will need to learn how to balance the opposites. And it's only when you can see the value of the opposites can you be in love. When you try to grab one side of existence, you will abandon the other, which means you're not grateful for the other, which means you judge it, you're resentful for it, and you can't live with it. You won't be able to see, feel, and experience love because you are choosing a one-sided existence. The yin and the yang must go together, the hot and the cold, the up and the down. It can be no hot without cold, it can be no left without right, it can be no good without bad, it can be no hero without villain. It can be no right without wrong. And your ability to perceive and embrace the opposites will determine the degree in which you can experience in a single moment this thing we all thrive for called love. So in your relationships, if you cannot find and see and observe and see the balance of why we attract opposites very often, why a male has something sticking out and a female has something that's receiving something going into their opposites. And without the opposites, they wouldn't be able to mate, to connect, to synergize. And as your young audience is looking to find fulfillment in all the wrong places, like relationships. People always say, when I go to school, I'll be happy. When I graduate school, then I'll find happy. Then when I find a mate, I'll be happy. And then when I can get rid of the mate, I'll be happy. Or when I have kids, I'll be happy. When the kids go off to school, I'll be happy. And you're just thinking you're going to find your inspiration in something outside of you. And you have to then look internal and find that love for yourself first. And to see, even in yourself, how opposites are required in order for you to be present. You have to be grateful again. You can't be grateful for half of a coin. You got a coin that has value when you take the whole coin. It has the heads and the tails. When you try to just take the heads and leave the tails, the coin has no value. It's the polarities, the positive and the negatives, the magnets. You magnetize things when you have a balance between the positive and the negatives. You've got to be able to attract into your life the things you want by embracing the whole. So when you're sitting back judging other people and labeling it as things wrong, then you wouldn't be able to find love. You won't be able to coexist. You won't be able to synergize. You can't find balance because you are one-sided in your mind and in your heart and in your soul. You're labeling it based upon your cultural code. Sometimes you're religious. Sometimes you're programming. You're stuck in this matrix of illusion because you've labeled things and you can't experience all of what God has to show you because you are only in love with half of Him. So the definition I would like to share, and I got from a mentor of mine, Dr. is the coexistence of complementary opposites. Two opposites that complement each other. And how can you be grateful for both of them as they're going on, as they're happening? What you think about and are thankful about will bring it out. I think that's enough for my closing remarks.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the show, Dr. Marcus, and I'm eternally grateful for being your friend and having you on the show.
My
okay,
pleasure.
great things, man.
Absolutely.
Let's empower God together.